Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Stop Shitting on Yourself. I am Jessica.
And I'm Jamie. Girl, so the world is opening back up
Yes.
because everyone's getting vaccinated and people feel a little bit more safe to go out and everything's kind of just reopening. But how do you feel about it?
I am so anxious.
Really?
So it's funny because you brought it up because my work just announced that we're gonna start going back to work probably after the summer.
Oh,
And I don't know how I feel about it. We've been stuck in this virtual space for so long. And I feel like I'm getting very comfortable with my computer screen and seeing my coworkers on the screen.
that's so true. That is so true. You can just mute them if you
Yeah,
want.
exactly. Like I don't really want to, or like if I don't want to be on camera, I feel like it's more and more okay now to just not be on the camera if you don't want to. Because
Okay.
things happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like we've done this for so long that I'm concerned that when we go back to the real world, like I don't know how to work with people in real life.
That you're going to be socially awkward.
Yeah, I feel like there's so many maybe like new things that you picked up during,
Yeah.
like virtual working that you don't necessarily do in real life, maybe.
That's so true. I feel like when the world opens back up and we have to go back to work,
Yeah.
I'm definitely not going to be as like socially there. I'm just not. Like, let's face it, I've been quarantined, like trying to be safe. I don't really hang out with a bunch of people, you know?
Mhm.
So, yeah, socializing is going to be very different, especially with all the different personalities at work, too.
Oh my God,
Right.
yeah. Yeah.
Right. And it makes me wonder because with our work kind of transitioning into this virtual realm, we've definitely seen different sides of our coworkers,
Oh my
right? And I
God,
think,
yeah.
and I don't know if there's going to be another transition in
Mm.
the personalities once we come back to work. I feel like there would be.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Like you're
you
meeting your
know,
coworker for the first time again. It's like,
kind
whoa.
of. And you have to build that rapport again.
Yeah, yeah. Like where did this come from? Who are you? No, I
Yeah.
totally get it. That's so funny. I actually had a conversation with my coworker this past week.
Uh-huh.
And it's kind of funny that she brought up so for context, I'm going to give you a little bit of context. When we
Okay.
were still working in the office, at my work, it's sort of notorious that our meetings are always 5 minutes late. Like we always run 5 minutes behind all of our meetings just because we had a really big office space. We had different floors. So sometimes when you're running from meeting to meeting, even if the meeting ends on time, then if you had like a back to back meeting, that means you're going to get to your second meeting late. So
Okay.
it was just like a known thing, even though everyone hated it. Everyone's like, let's start on time. Everyone's like, you know what? It's fine. Like, just give everyone 5 minutes. And that's like, I feel like all the companies says it's like the courtesy 5 minutes. If you don't show up, that means you're not going to be there.
Yeah, it's like a little grace period.
Yeah, but with working virtually, like you can't really run to a meeting. And I
Okay.
feel
Yeah.
like it's made me so much more anxious when I'm late to a meeting. Like I understand that sometimes meetings overflow to another meeting or, things happen and you just can't get to it on time. And that was the same conversation I had with my coworker. Um, it was one of those days that I was just jumping from one meeting to another and I ended up being like 3 minutes late. And so I like went to the meeting. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I totally didn't mean to like hold you up, blah, blah. And I was super apologetic. And she's like, dude, it's fine. Like things happen. She's like, I don't know why everyone is just so caught up with being on time with virtual meetings. Like it never used to happen in in-person meetings, right? It's always sort of okay that it runs a little bit late and whatnot. And I'm like, yeah, but I just feel really bad. And that, I don't know, whatever personality that really drives me to like need to be on time and the anxiety to need to be on time just has like exponentially grown during this quarantine.
That's crazy because I know that you are very on time. Like if anything, you're always early
Yes. Yes.
to everything. is what I've noticed. Like even when we do this podcast, you're like at least 2 minutes early. And I'm here like, Jessica, can you give me like 5, 10, maybe 15 more minutes? Like I'm that friend who's chronically late all the time, all the time. Like someone could tell me, hey, this party starts at 9, I'll be there by 10. Okay, like, and 10's like being early. I'm like, okay, I'm here. Like I'll be late. But when it comes to work, I mean, it's a different story, you know? But I do get that where it's like you kind of feel a little bit more anxious, like being on time to the meetings now that everything's virtual because you feel like there's no, I guess, excuse for being late.
Yeah. And I'm always looking at the clock, you know, because I feel like
Oh,
the clock is right there. So I'm always looking at the clock.
yeah. I get that, but confession time. I've been late. I've been late to meetings in the virtual setting too.
Well, I mean, I guess being late, sometimes it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, not all the time, right? But sometimes, because I'm here like I'm doing one thing and then I'm doing another thing, and then it's like, oh, I forgot. Like I had a meeting. I forgot. So I'm just doing multiple things all at once just to kind of get all my work done. And then I lose track of time.
That's never happened with me. I don't know, I feel like time, even if I'm not looking at it, I have a very like I guess I have a very like good internal clock because even for like waking up, for example, I always wake up like right around the same time every single day, even on my days off.
Yeah. Yeah. You do.
So I'm trying to think
Yeah.
of times where I've just like lost track of time and I don't feel like that's happened very much with me.
So, question, if it was the other way around with your coworker, and I'm sure it happens a lot with you too, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I already see you're like rolling your eyes. You're like, oh God, I know what the question is and I don't like it. What has your experience been with other, I guess, with other coworkers?
Being late.
And yes, with them being late to a meeting, like how do you feel about that when that
Um,
happens to you?
so I there's a grace period. I understand. I think I'm a little bit more lenient if it's like the first few times, but if it's a coworker that is consistently late most of the time, I get very, very impatient. And I would say like I'd like to think that in real life, like in just normal like friendships or whatever, I'm a relatively laid back person. Um but I am someone that is like, I have a very good, I like to think like a work life balance. I don't like it when my personal life trickles into my work life and then the other way around. So, and this is something that I've learned about myself through, like all the years of working is that when I'm at work, I am very professional and I'm at work. Like I make that distinction. Um, and so I don't know, I feel like I get a lot more impatient and my interpersonal skills it's like sometimes I throw that out the window.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so why does all of that go out the window for you?
I think there's something about like being late. And I've heard this before, and it was actually a high school teacher that drilled this idea into our heads.
Okay.
He absolutely hated when people were late to his class.
Mm.
So he was like, if you're gonna be late to my class, don't even bother coming into my class because there's no excuse for being late. Yeah, it was
Wow.
it was
Wow.
horrible. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I, had that class for a year. So he drilled that concept into my head. Um, and then as I started working, I think I kind of agree with that. Like I like to think that I value everybody's time. And depending on where you are, some people think that executive time are more valuable than, like us just doing the executional stuff. But I feel like everybody's time is valuable or just as valuable, right? And so if everybody's time is just as valuable, I see it as more of a respect thing to be on time because I don't want it to, if you're late to a meeting, for example, then you're almost insinuating like my time or whatever I was doing was much more important than whatever we're going to be doing right now. Um,
Oh,
and that's just how I've always felt about it, and I think that's why being on time or even being early gives me that little bit of buffer, so I'm not late. Granted, I'm not saying I'm never late because there are definitely times where I am late,
it
but when I
happens.
am, it makes me super anxious. I feel really bad about it because I don't ever want someone else to feel
Mm,
like whatever I was doing was that much more important than
I
the meeting that
see.
we were supposed to have.
Yeah. That's interesting because I definitely see it a different way. Um,
Oh.
I I think when it comes to work, there is a level of like professionalism that you do need to bring in. And so if you have a coworker who is chronically late to certain meetings or their job, and then that's an issue, right?
Mhm.
Because it is like it is a professional setting. So that's a little bit different. Um, but I don't think that it is 100% like a respect thing.
Okay.
And okay, so here's why. Okay, because I think speaking on like a personal like friendship relationship kind of aspect level thing, um I don't think it's a respect thing, because people who are chronically late, they're not trying to disrespect you or think that their time is more valuable than yours.
Mhm.
I think that they have a different sense of time. So I actually looked it up because I was curious, like why is it that certain people are more on time all the time and why other people are more chronically late, right? There is this article that was titled "Chronically Late People Aren't Trying to Annoy or Disrespect You. In fact, it has nothing to do with you." And and then there were three different reasons that this article stated, and they said that people who are usually kind of chronically late, one, are multitasking like crazy.
Okay.
And a lot of times like people think that they can multitask really really well, but in fact they can't, right? And so that happens with me too, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do my makeup, oh, I'm gonna make coffee, oh, I probably should like, set this up so I can do that and that like during this time, and I'm like multitasking, but like that takes just so much longer for me to even get out the door. There's that.
Okay, okay.
And the next one is chasing the bright and shiny. And so this article says that there's always something more enticing than the mundane task of traveling to the next destination, right? So, for example, like one more round of video games, or maybe another fascinating article that you want to read. Um, and all these distractions, they give you like a mini thrill, and it feels so harmless. It's like, oh, just one more thing that I'm gonna read, or just like one more
Got
social
it,
media
got
post
it.
that I'm gonna scroll through, just one more TikTok video that I'm gonna look at. And it feels so harmless at the moment, but all of that like adds up, and then you're like, oh crap, like I actually have to get ready, right? And so there's that. And then the
Okay.
last one, they reference this research that was done in San Diego State University, and it was done by a psychologist, and the person found that type A personalities, they tend to be more aware of timeliness than the more laid back type B personalities. And what's interesting is that like these two personalities, they actually perceive time differently. So in this
Mm.
study, they found that type A personalities, like when they were asked to kind of like estimate like when the minute stopped, right? They usually estimated that a minute passed in 58 seconds, and that was type A. So type A personalities will be like, oh, this is a minute and it's only been 58 seconds, right? Type B personalities, on the other hand, they estimated that the minute passed in 77 seconds.
Oh my god.
So the study like literally showed that these two personalities, they perceive time really differently. And so I think that there is a personality factor to people who are early like all the time, and then people who are late a lot of times.
I would say I feel like I am, especially when it comes to my professional work, I'm a very type A person.
Yeah, because once again, I feel like at work it's different. You know, like
Yeah,
at
yeah,
work, once again, like you do want to be early. There's a level of professionalism to it,
yeah.
but but we can't deny that the way that we approach our personal relationships,
Mhm.
that also kind of like leaks into the workplace.
That makes sense, and I feel like I'm a very type A person when it comes to work and, like, some
Mm,
parts of my personal life too.
yeah.
But I wanna make sure I'm in control of everything, and I feel like time is something I can actually be in control of. Not
Mm,
passing of time, just what happens within a set amount of time.
okay.
I
Yeah.
feel like
Yeah.
I can take control of that, and I'm very proud of myself whenever I end a meeting on time or have, like, enough time set for questions or whatever in a meeting. Like, I'm very proud when meetings
Mm,
run on time. So, I
mm-hmm.
don't know. For me, I guess I can see how that happens, like, when you're sort of, like, lost in whatever you're doing, and I see that
Mm-hmm.
more with, like, I guess, creative types, because
Mm,
they're going down this path and trying to create something, and then they kinda just get lost in their idea. Um,
mm.
but for me, I 100% agree with that article. Like, for me, and a minute probably is, like, 50 some seconds.
Yeah.
I'm always like, "Okay, let's wrap it up," and then I'm like, "Oh, I still have a little bit of time."
Yeah, I'd probably be on the other end where it's like it's been 2 minutes already. I'm like, oh, time.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
man. So would you say that you're more of that type B personality?
I mean, to be honest, I don't really know the description of type B. I mean, I'm guessing that it's the opposite of type A. And the only thing that I really know about type A personalities is that they're very organized. They like things a certain way. They like the checklists, like checking off things on their to-do list, that they're on time, like things like that. Oh, and then that they need things to be done very specifically. So like that's what I think about when I think of type A. And then I'm guessing type B is just like the opposite. But I don't think that I'm a complete type B because I do identify with certain aspects of type A. Like I do like certain things to be very specific. And I do like the checklists and all that. But then I do not yeah. I just can't say I'm a complete like type B and type A, and I don't know. I have like identify with both. Is that even a thing?
Well, I think it's funny you say that because we know of type A personalities because I feel like in media and on movies and TV show, we always hear about like, oh, I'm a type A personality. And they
Yeah.
portray type A personality as someone who's, very controlling, very detail oriented, goal oriented, very
Oh,
driven.
right,
And you're like, okay,
right.
I'm a type A. There's actually four types of personalities. If you're
What?
thinking about on that spectrum, there's A, B, and then there's C and D.
What? I didn't even know there was more.
Yeah, right?
Wait,
So
hold up. Hold up. Okay, so there's okay, hold up. Mind blown. You're gonna have to explain a little bit more for me and for the listeners because I have no idea what C and D are, and I would like to know a little bit more about B too because I'm like I don't know.
well, so I've always known about them, but I actually had to look them up because I
Okay,
never really heard too much about C and D personality types. And
yeah,
I
me
know there's
neither.
probably like if you depending on the type of personality test you take, there's like, I don't know, so many different types.
Oh, there's so many different like the ENFJ,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
INFJ.
yeah.
Like what was that? What was that test called again? Is it that
Myers-Briggs,
one? Yeah,
something.
man. I don't even know, but I just know like they give you a few letters and they're like, this is your personality.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like,
And there's like
great.
what 24 combinations or something like that. But that the way that they've actually
Mm,
grouped A, B, C, and D is that like the four letter personalities
yeah.
actually falls into these like A, B, C, and Ds also. And
Okay.
it's just
Okay.
like
So
a maybe like a more broad way of looking at those 24. Is it 24? 16? I don't know. Some
girl,
mix of those personalities.
I don't even know. I don't know. But let's go with the four different types of personalities because I think that's a
Okay.
little bit easier to explain. So
Yes. Yes.
So educate us. What's type A, B, C, and D?
Okay, so I'm just going to read off like some of the personalities of these different types. So type
Okay.
A personality tends to be they take charge, right, which we know. They're very ambitious, they're entrepreneurial, they tend to be very dominant and very competitive. I feel like I'm most of that. Very
Okay.
competitive. I'm very
Yeah, yeah,
never
yeah.
play a game of Clue with me. This is just for
Girl,
everybody out there. Oh, you don't want to know the outcome of playing Clue with me.
girl, I get that. I love anything competitive. And this is where I hear a lot of like, Jamie, why are you so aggressive? Because my competitive nature comes out. I'm like, because like I don't like to lose.
Yes.
Especially when we're playing a
Yes.
game. Okay,
Oh
when
my
we're playing
God.
a game,
I'm such a sore loser.
I know. It's like there's no such thing as me losing, okay? Ever.
No,
Like,
no,
no, it was the
exactly.
wind that knocked it out, okay? It wasn't me. Like, I didn't
Okay,
lose.
and then some what they call weaknesses. I don't really see them as weaknesses of these type A personalities. They tend to be very stubborn. I know that I'm very stubborn. I've heard that all my life. Workaholics, impatient, insensitive, intolerant. Oh my God. Okay,
Oh
it
my
sounds bad.
gosh.
Um,
Okay, wait, hold on. That sounds really bad.
yeah, and I kind of feel like I'm a little bit of that at work.
Mm-hmm.
I
Oh,
actually know that about myself. This is something that I have to actively remind myself because I tend to
mm-hmm.
be not short with people, but
Yeah,
like because again, I am very like work is work. I
yeah.
have to remind myself to say thank you, or I have to remind myself to say like, oh, thanks, I really appreciate your help
What?
because I'm just like such a task oriented person. I'm like done, check, we're done.
It's kind of like for you, people are just doing their jobs. And you did what you
Exactly.
needed to do. So why do I need to thank you for it? Because you just
Yeah.
needed to do what you needed to do. Is that what it
Yeah.
is?
It is, and I know it's terrible, and I should be appreciative of people, and that's something that I have to make such conscious, like, an active thing, like, I have to remember to thank someone, even in email, um,
Mm,
or
because
if
it
I'm
brings up
asking them to do
morale.
something. Yeah, exactly, so I have to remember that interpersonal part of me, so now
Mm,
that you're listing it all together, it sounds kinda bad, but I guess I am a very type A personality when it comes to work. Let's
okay.
move on, let's move on. We're
Okay.
not talking about the bad stuff.
I mean, hey, the goods and the bads, right? Like we're
That's
not
true.
perfect. So
Okay, so type B. Type B personality, they, categorize them as the socializer. So they tend to be very enthusiastic, very, friendly, very charismatic. They tend to be people-oriented, spontaneous, and self-confident, and easily liked by most people. So these are like
hmm.
peoples. People persons?
Yeah, people. Yeah, they're extroverts,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right?
they're extroverts.
Okay.
Okay, so the weaknesses is, they may try to do too much at once. So what you mentioned.
Okay.
Okay, so they have trouble being alone. This is interesting. I have no trouble being alone.
You know what? I have to admit, I do like having alone time and I like being alone because it just feels really peaceful. But I do know that if I am alone for a really long time, it starts to affect my mood. And I've recognized that about myself because I do feed off of the energy of like other people. So if I'm quarantining, like quarantining was so hard for me because I wasn't interacting with a lot of people. And so I found myself getting into a very like depressive state.
Mm.
So I totally understand that.
Yes,
I
so
get
you're
it.
totally a people person. Okay, and
Yes.
then some weaknesses. Right, they try to do too many things at once, sometimes unrealistic, doesn't finish what was started. I don't think that's the same for you. I do feel like you follow through
Actually,
eventually.
eventually, yes. But it's so funny because that actually is true in certain aspects of my life. Like I don't finish what I started. Um, when it comes to like dumb tasks, but it's like I'll do half my laundry. I'll be like, okay, today I'm not gonna do, like the white and like the towel, because I like to wash my towels separately. So I'll separate all my laundry and it becomes like 3 or 4 different batches.
Okay.
And I'm like, this is too much. This is too much. So I'm just gonna do like half today. So I don't really follow through with everything. So it's just like dumb stuff that I don't really follow through with sometimes.
Okay.
There's that.
Okay. There's short attention span, which I guess that's
Yes.
true, right?
Yes.
Easily bored.
Yes.
Procrastinates. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
very type B. So okay, I'm gonna go through the C's and D's hopefully quickly. So type C
Okay.
personality, they tend to be the thinker or the scientist.
Oh.
Very accurate, creative, imaginative, detail, follow through, organized,
Mm-hmm.
analytical,
Mm-hmm.
critical thinker. I feel like I'm a little bit of maybe C. Quality control. Okay. And then the weaknesses, worry about progress, can appear unsocial, critical behavior. I don't know what that means. Okay.
Hmm. Okay.
Detached behavior. Is that me? I just don't get attached to people and their feelings.
I'm not quite sure what that means, but okay.
Disengaging. Okay, that's pretty bad also. Okay, so that's type C. So I feel like type C might be like a watered down version of a type A personality, like not as
Mm,
intense
I see.
version,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
maybe. Okay,
Maybe.
and then type D, they're called a supporter or the philosopher. Low key, caring, sincere, compassionate, calm, trusting, reliable, consistent. Their weaknesses, they tend not to speak up, easily used by others, uncomfortable with constant change, less assertive, resistant to change, a lot about not wanting change. I feel like that's a little bit of me
Wow.
too. I hate change. I should, mm, that's not true. I don't hate change. I just hate when things change last minute.
Oh, I
So
see.
maybe a mix of that, like A and D also.
Yeah. I think I'm more like B and C after you've read all the
Mm,
types of A, B, C, and D.
yeah. I definitely don't have any B in my life.
That is hilarious because I'm here like if somebody switches plans on me, yeah, I don't like it, but at the same time, I
Mhm.
can still go with the flow, you know?
No, I get
Um,
very antsy. I'm like, "Oh, I don't like that."
really?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So yeah,
Um,
definitely no type B in you. Nope.
no, no type B in me. But you know what I'm sensing here is okay. There's the A, B, C, and D kind of like dominant personalities, but
Mhm.
there's so much more in between. And
Yeah.
like you're a mix of all of them, a little bit of everything, whether it's like in your professional life, in your personal life. And I feel like that's where it truly starts blending in. Is like your personal life, you might be something a little bit different than your professional life.
Mhm.
So even though I might be like 100% in my work life, I can see myself as some of the other personalities in my personal life.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree because I think when you were reading the different personalities, I was thinking about it, and as a professional, I do like things to be super specific in certain things that I do, and it irks me when people don't, I guess, complete the work to the accuracy that I would like it to be, and they're not as detail oriented, and it bugs the living hell out of me. And
Mm.
I find myself kind of like picking at that, or like it just kind of like irks me. I'm like, oh God, like it's not a big deal, but Um, so I do see that a workplace me can be a little bit more different than um I guess just a personal relationship type of me. But I think that goes to say like we deal with so many different personalities in a work environment, and I mean, these are people that we have to try to be like cordial with,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, you have to play nice with.
But that really like goes to show that there are so many different personalities that we work with. And I mean, some personalities we get along with a little bit more than others. And I don't know about you, Jessica, but I love making friends at work. I You're like, huh, maybe not. Okay, maybe you don't see it the same way, but that's okay. That's okay, right? Um, but I do like to find those people that I really like click with at work. Cause if we're gonna be seeing each other every single day, like I wanna have some kind of personal relationship with at least like one or two other people. you know? And I want to find those people who I can actually click with, not just at work, but outside of work. Like, can I go to happy hour with you? Like, can we actually become really good friends? And I love kind of building those relationships with people at work, though not all, because I can't have all these different personalities in my life. But if you're a good person, I like you and we click, it's like, cool, like let's try to develop this relationship outside of work and become friends. But how do you feel about that?
I'm having such a hard time answering this question because, like I've mentioned, I like to separate my work life from my personal life. Like, I feel like if I can, honestly, if I can, like, people from work will know nothing about who I am in my personal life.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
like, short of like my name and like maybe that I'm married, you don't even know anything about me. Like, I am that person that when you ask, like, oh, hey, Jess, how was your weekend? I'll say, like, oh, it was good. It was fine. That's
Oh,
it. That's it.
okay, 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 that's it.
um,
And then do they just
And then they'll
awkwardly
be like,
pause and
"Oh, okay, cool." And then, I mean, I'll ask, I mean, not so sincerely, but I'll be like, "Oh, how was your weekend?" Like, just
not
knowing
so
that I have
sincerely?
to.
Girl, that is so funny. Like, you're that coworker.
Yeah, I'm that coworker. I don't know, and maybe it's that I haven't invested enough of my time to just want to get to know people. There's
Mhm.
definitely people at work that I like, right? That I know
Mhm.
it's like sort of work confidants where if I want to talk about something, I can talk to them
Right.
about it because we all share
Yeah.
the same pains. Um but no, I don't think I've ever really like wanted to hang out with people outside of work. My work, just for context, it's like we have a very relaxed culture. So we have a lot of even like happy hours and just parties in general at work. And that's okay. I just don't really like participating in them. To me, it feels like work.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like if a work is
Okay.
throwing a happy hour or if your team is throwing a happy hour and if I'm made to feel like I need to go, to me that feels like
Yeah.
work. That's not something I'm actively
Yeah.
trying to do.
I think if you're
Um,
like close to the people that you are going to happy hour with, then it feels more like a social kind of like friendly, low risk event. But then if it's like a company happy hour, or a company like get together thing, I do kind of see what you mean. It's like it's like work. Like you're spending
yeah,
more time at work.
exactly,
Whereas
exactly.
if you scheduled happy hour with like a coworker, you're like, hey, let's go to happy hour, right? We're done with work. Like, let's get out of here, right? Then that's different.
Yeah, and I definitely know people who's like made best friends with their coworker,
Yeah.
who's had like very long-term relationships with their coworkers.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, maybe I've just never found that in a coworker. I have good friends in
Mm,
coworkers, but I don't volunteer to hang out with them outside of work or even go to happy hour. I don't know. I'm just
dang.
that kind of person, I guess. So the
Okay.
idea of blending in, my work with my personal life just feels very strange and weird. And I know
Mm,
that's something that I have to be open to myself and be more flexible on. I feel like the quarantine has definitely made me open up a little bit more because I feel like everybody is sharing this like I don't know, this pandemic and everybody's sharing this experience, it's definitely made
yeah,
me a little bit more okay to open up about certain things that's happening or share a little bit more about just what's going on with my
I
personal
see.
life.
Yeah.
But that being said, I know that as we go back to work, it's probably just much easier for me to default back to how I used to be.
You know what? I can see that happening. I definitely like creating those relationships with people that I really like at work. Um, and if I don't get that kind of I don't know, like working environment or that kind of culture or those kind of people at work, like I don't feel the same about work. One of the jobs that I had before, I actually ended up making like really, really good friends. And we'd like go out together. We went to concerts together. We got drunk together. We like cried together. We like traveled together. And so
Wow.
yeah, like they became friends that like I would definitely keep for life and I still do keep in contact with. And that's something that I do miss if I don't have that same kind of environment or the same kind of people ish or opportunities, I guess, in another like job that I get in the future. So
Yeah. Okay.
so
I mean, it
I
sounds nice in theory. Like as you're telling me that, I'm like, oh, that sounds nice.
it
But
is
I don't know,
nice. It's
maybe that's just
great.
too out of my personal comfort zone, or maybe I haven't met anyone in my work life.
It could be the latter because I think it is hard to find people that you get that comfortable with.
Yeah.
So I definitely see it as a blessing
Mm.
that I was able to meet people who I became like lifelong friends with
Yeah.
in that job. But man, I know it's like really hard to even find people like that in your workplace.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe that's what it is. And maybe you just haven't come across that yet. But when you
Yeah.
do, Jessica, it just might be like really freaking rewarding. So who knows? Like when we go back to the workplace, maybe
Yeah.
other people might open up a little bit more. Maybe you might
Yeah.
carry that like more open, heart and, that approach to
Yeah.
your workplace initially at least, and that might help spark some relationships.
Yeah, and I'm also hoping that none of my coworkers just for whatever reason stumble onto this podcast and be like, "Oh, so that's why I don't know anything about her."
Hey,
But
but you know
I
what? That might help like create some relationships. Maybe that might help them understand you a little bit better. And
maybe, I don't know.
maybe, yeah, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, okay, let me know. You guys, if anybody is just like I am, like please let me know that I'm not just some strange, really cold-hearted person. It feels like from this podcast, what I've learned is that I just hate people and I don't want to talk to people. I don't know. So if there's anybody out
Girl,
there that works just like me, please let me know. Let's build a community of type A people that like don't actually care about the community of
that won't actually connect with one another, but like you feel like you're part of a community and you just kind of rise together, but then not do anything because you don't like each other.
Yeah, I like that.
Is that what it's gonna be? That is so funny, girl. Okay. All good though. I mean, I'm sure there's like a lot of people who just don't like people like that, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And like, hey, yeah, I do like people, but I don't like everybody either. Like sometimes people are so shitty. Like I don't like them. But
True. But you're
you can't
definitely a
live
lot
without them.
more flexible, I guess. And I'm learning. I feel like I'm learning to be more flexible. I'm learning to be a little bit more open-minded, and it's hard,
It
but
is. And I'm also learning how to be like on time more. Though I think that I will definitely always struggle with that, and then like actually completing tasks. I mean, I do complete. I mean, hey, get me wrong, I do complete tasks, but I tend to multitask a lot and it does
Mm.
like kind of drag on the timing of when that gets done. So
Yeah.
definitely learning how to do that too. So I think
Yeah.
we're both learning
We're
like
learning.
how we should navigate this. Like, dude, I don't even know.
See, adulting is hard, you guys. Like hearing about, your struggles with time and work, it just gives me so much anxiety. And I'm sure you hearing about how I interact with people, it's like, oh my God, Jess, come on. So,
Yeah.
we're learning, and this is what this podcast is all about. Just figuring out maybe the should nots more so than the shoulds of life today, at least.
For today, yeah.
Yeah, I'm figuring it out slowly, stepping outside of my
Absolutely.
comfort zone, but also understanding what my comfort zone is and just being very okay with it too.
Yeah, and just being like, you know what, this is who I am, and I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm just
good.
gonna own it for
Mhm.
now until I've
Absolutely.
made public enemies or something.
Don't do that. Don't do that, Jessica. Don't do it. All right. Well, this was our podcast for today.
Let me know if you guys agree with me or Jamie, or if you guys are neither, because I'm curious to see how you guys have, grown in your work and what you guys have to learn at work to deal with all of these different types of people.
Right, because oh my gosh, yeah, people can be so annoying, but people can be great too.
Yeah.
And there are so many different personalities out there. So just let us know, leave us a comment, like the video, and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next podcast that comes through next Wednesday.
Yeah, we will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.